100% remote. It consists of 6 people in 5 locations across 2 states, playing live in real time to create one awesome band.
Yeah, that's what we call that box and sticks math.
Yeah.
Now we're going to ask everyone to introduce each other. So starting with Christina.
You want me to introduce each other or me or?
Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
Okay. Well, I'm Christina. I sing for Box and Sticks. Greg and I formed the band. I think it was just about December of 2020. I'm the Box, he's the Sticks, and that's me.
That's pretty cool. And also, Frank, introduce yourself and what part do you play in the band?
I backup singer, and also rhythm guitarist for the band. I just joined in September. I was elected to be in the band, so it was great. It's a great experience.
That's pretty cool. Greg, what?
Yeah, so I'm the drummer, and I handle the tech piece. So I put together the whole remote thing.
Which he says very casually, but is so much work and so much tech and so much equipment, you would not even believe it.
We're going to need to spend a moment just having Greg explain that, mostly because we need to keep hearing it to have any idea what he does. So.
It's a whole lot of flux capacitors.
Yeah.
That's what
Marty! So I guess you play at 88 miles per hour then?
That's right.
Try.
And we don't need roads either, yeah.
That's right.
When we're going, there are no roads.
That's right. Chris, can you introduce yourself and what part in the band do you do?
I'm Chris. I'm the bass player down in the engine room with Greg.
That's right.
So you're like the Scotty of the whole enterprise, I guess.
The glittering, shiny engine
I like
room.
that.
I like that too, actually.
I
That's
like that
very
too.
apt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And Brian, your keyboard. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, keys and synth, I guess. And I guess I'm up on the bridge most of the time, kind of hovering over everything.
Brian's a Swiss Army knife.
We call Brian the Swiss Army knife of sounds, because we will pick a song and he'll be like, oh, I think I have a sound for that. And it's exactly the perfect sound. Exactly. So yeah, he's our Swiss Army knife of sound.
That's excellent. Jeff Thurman, the last member of the band. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do and what you play.
All right. Hey, yeah, Jeff Thurman. Play lead guitar, and I sing vocals on a song. And who knows, we might find another song where that.
We're hoping so.
Is that a hint?
Yeah. If it's anything that needs a strained vocal, something that just, we're maybe a Joe Cocker tune coming up. We'll see. But no, mostly lead guitar and pedal board. I'm obsessed with pedals, so pretty much always trying something new, or everything new, if it may be. So.
That's awesome.
Right. Every rehearsal, it's like I sold that guitar. I bought a new one.
Yeah. I'm a reverb
I've completely
Craigslist.
redone my entire setup, and it's exactly the way I wanted, except I'm going to change everything after rehearsal tonight.
I literally will sell off all my
big
pedals and then buy all new stuff about 3 times a year. It's a little bit ridiculous.
It also doesn't help that we all exchange Sweetwater gift cards for every birthday that we have. So we're always gifting each other money to buy new gear, and then we do, and then everything gets rebuilt every 15 minutes. So
once you get one
nice
piece of kit, then you rebuild everything to sustain that. So,
that's awesome. So this is Kylie. She's a co-host helping me today.
Hi.
Hi, Kylie.
Hello.
So I want us to start. How did you get into the music scene? Whatever made you want to just become a cover band? And some of the beautiful songs I've heard, like I mentioned earlier, Yellow was excellent.
Thank you. Everybody always by default lets me talk first because I'm Italian and I'm a girl and I don't ever stop talking. But does anybody else want to start this first? Because everybody's got a different story here. I can elect someone.
Sure.
How about
Christina? You're the elector.
Chris, Lola,
Christina, this is a first, Christine. I've never seen you pull that move on turning the tables on us like this.
Yeah.
You don't know how
please.
to speak.
We're not prepared.
I'm like, okay, guys, what song do you want to start with? And everyone's like,
Well, this is good because we
Okay, I guess
we don't want a 2-hour interview.
Yeah,
That's true.
Go
but
ahead.
I find Chris fascinating, especially because this was not his first instrument. So
That's right.
Yeah, I was. I've been playing guitar since I was that high, and about 6 years ago, I discovered that I'd been a bass player all along.
That's cool.
Yeah, I picked up a bass almost by accident, and just fell in love with it.
And he's a
Wait,
really,
Chris,
really
did
good
you start
bassist.
playing
He's
guitar
good,
at
yeah.
9, or like did you? Because I saw something you play guitar at 9, like when you're at 9. But I could be wrong. I saw something that, like, I know one of you started playing like an instrument at like 9 years old or something.
I'm trying to think. Jeff,
Me, I started on drums when I was 9.
Oh, that might be
Oh.
you then. That might be you.
yeah, because I think Frank, you were in junior high or high school, and yeah.
Yeah, I think I was like a freshman, and well, actually, no, it was probably at the end of 8th grade. I started like messing around and trying to get guitar.
So yeah, Kylie, you
let's-
might be thinking of Greg. I don't want to derail Chris because I
Yeah,
got him
right.
to talk.
Yeah,
but-
Frank said 14 on his,
Yeah,
and
but I
Jeff
saw
was 13.
something that one of you started at like 9 years old.
yeah,
playing
yeah, we all
instruments.
started pretty young though.
I think so.
I think. Oh, did I freeze?
No,
No,
you're
no,
fine.
you're good.
You're good.
Now you're
Oh,
frozen.
maybe you did.
Yeah,
Now you're frozen.
I think you
It was
just do
right
that on
after
purpose
you
because you
asked
want to
her
get your.
first, which
She's
was-
just trying to get her best profile.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Whoop.
There she
Oh,
goes.
she's back.
Oh, right.
Back.
Yep, there she's back.
Right.
Yep. So we elect
about
you,
your-
Christina. So keep
Can't
going.
hear you, Christina.
So, Chris, go ahead. I think.
Oh, I don't know. And then I how did I join the band? I joined the band because they had a bass player.
Well, we've gone through like, what was it? How many bass players did we go through
I don't know.
before we got Chris? There was like
Maybe 3, I think.
But
There's a history of the
Yeah,
band that we
at
hear
least
about
3.
in
Yeah.
lore,
You
but
know,
we
like
don't
in
know for
Spinal
sure.
Tap, they keep hiring drummers who keep exploding.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. It's just like
I think
Spinal Tap.
They had a thing like that with bass
Bass
players.
player. Yeah. So
Yeah.
finally, we said, I think it was Facebook.
Yeah,
One
Christina.
of the Facebook
and my,
groups.
Christina and my wife Barbara are
Yeah.
are Facebook friends, and Christina said, "Does anybody know a bass player?"
hmm
And Barbara said, "Yes,
And you were like,
I do." There's one. I have one right here. She said. So and
And so we watched a video with Chris in it, and I was like, he's amazing. He's really amazing. We have to have him. And then we noticed that Brian was in I think a different video. You two were together, and we were like, Brian, this guy's amazing too. Can we
need
get
that
both of
guy
them?
too.
so we asked Chris to reach out to Brian, and it worked out.
So Brian and I joined almost 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Just about the same time.
Yeah. Chris and I had been in a band for a few months together, a local band up here. So it was just fortuitous.
Guys, now can you hear me?
Now you're back.
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't hear anything for the last couple minutes, so sorry for whatever weird faces.
Now we're
I-
just talking about how Chris and Brian.
Oh, well, yeah, Jeff is the only other original remaining member, which you may have already said, but we've had a couple of lineups. But Jeff joined. Jeff, you might have been the first person we brought in, I think, back in December or January of 2020.
True. Yeah, it was. I remember we had this great Slack conversation going. That was just really fun and funny, and we were both like, "Oh, we should." I think I remember at one point you said, "God, I hope you can actually play because this is going to be fun if you can." And I was like, "I hope I can too." It's funny.
I like how you mentioned that when you talk about mine being absolutely shredded because you talked about cover band, Bigfoot or Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
Yes. Yeah, that's Christina's line. Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
Bigfoot riding a unicorn.
Yeah.
That's
I
funny.
wonder if that's actually true though. That ever happened though.
What's that?
I wonder if that actually happened though. Like
Oh.
Bigfoot riding on a unicorn.
It certainly could have.
It's
Yeah.
very possible.
that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Greg, I think you're eating up all of our bands because I keep getting kicked out of the meeting.
Oh no.
So you guys can't pair up on one
You would think so,
You would
but
think they could just
Wait.
sit right
my
next to it.
husband
Oh, wait.
is a diva.
You are
and he
married, right?
wanted-
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah,
he
he
basically
wanted-
I can,
his
I
own-
can give it
Out
I can
now.
give it a go.
They are in
He
fact
wanted
in the
his
same
own
room, I
recording.
think.
So no,
Let me
it's
try
okay.
giving you my
Oh.
phone.
Oh, come on, Greg.
Because now
he
that
took
you
up
we
all the
never
bandwidth,
have
right?
seen you in the
He-
same place before.
Yeah.
We've never been
You
in the
have.
band game.
You have.
No, I
We've
have.
hung out with you twice.
We
We've
have.
actually
We've
met
met-
you in the flesh.
We have seen each other in 3D. It's true.
If you
That's
drop
true.
off again, I'm gonna give you my phone and we'll see if that works.
Aw, thanks. I appreciate
Aw.
that. So yeah, so
You
I
get-
missed
that's-
everything, but
Well,
yeah.
mentioning
So
you
about,
didn't miss
um,
much, Christina. You didn't miss much.
I just mentioned about talking about cover bands being like Bigfoot riding a unicorn, and then someone said that was your quote, your idea. You made
yeah,
that up.
it's for better or worse. I'm kind of the social media and phraseology person for the band. So whatever comes out of my addled noggin is kind of what we go by. But yeah, well, because look, I mean, let's be realistic, right? Like every cover band in existence ends up sort of saying the same thing, like, hey, you know, we play hits from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today, and you know, it's
Whatever
it's
today
great.
is.
Yeah, and I just sort of decided, like, well, rather than attempting to say that in a way that was going to both be honest and interesting, I'm just going to acknowledge the fact that, you know, in our structure, except for the technology piece, obviously, but in our musical structure, we're like every other cover band. We play other people's music and we hope it sounds good and other people like it. So, but it was sort of a useful tack to take, because anybody who got it right away in terms of auditioning for the band. So Jeff was in with both feet. The first email I got back from him, I said to Greg, we got to get this guy because, you know, he's really, 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 really talented on guitar, but he also has such a great personality and he understands my weird humor. And then literally everybody that we had who didn't end up staying kind of, you know, was a little bit like, what are you talking about to me most of the time? So, and then there were a bunch of people who wanted to audition and they came in and just sort of did not really get what we were trying to do, which is, we always say to take the music, but not ourselves seriously. Right. So we just have a lot of fun and we really all love each other. You know, we really are like a family, except for Brian. We don't like Brian, but
Yeah.
we always tell Brian that, no, we love Brian. But so we all
We won't
get
get into that on this call. Yeah.
that's fundamental to us, is just we all really got to like each other, because, you know, what's the point of making music with people that you don't really like? Life is too short. So
I take it you've been writing your own songs at some point. You're going to be producing an album or releasing an album, but how does that
no,
work?
that's not
Nope.
us, but
Oh,
an
okay.
interesting idea. Jeff writes originals. I write originals. I don't know if anybody else does, but we haven't done any of them. It's, you know, being a cover band and all, we have sort of avoided that, but at some point maybe we will.
That would take ourselves too seriously if we did.
Right.
That.
Right.
So Brian, what made you want to play the keyboards and maybe like a violin or a flute or something?
Oh, well, keyboards runs in my family. So I think my dad played, my older brother played. That was just a natural thing.
Brian was on Broadway.
Well,
Long
Brian played on Broadway.
Played on Broadway. Yeah.
Yeah, for a brief period. Yeah. So, but we, you know, I played, you know, when I was a kid, you know, elementary school, high school, you know, college, all that stuff. So I was always the musical theater person back then. And then, then I got into New York for a while and I was playing there for a few years, but then I decided I need to earn a living. So that was the end of that.
How pesky. Yeah. That money thing.
So I take it I heard that, Christina, you started this whole thing, and then I think you and Greg started this whole band, and then you just auditioned everyone else?
Yeah, well, we, Greg and I met it's sort of a long story, but I will consolidate it for everyone's sanity. We took a rock band workshop, and it was just, you know, a bunch of musicians who didn't have a band home that got plopped together in, you know, in one band through a music school. And we met there and hit it off, obviously, musically and personally. And so we were in that band for, what was it, like 3 years, 4 years, something like that?
About 3 or 4 years.
And then that dissolved, in 2020. And we thought, okay, well, this, the first year of the pandemic, and, for various reasons, we weren't going to be playing out anytime soon. So we thought, well, how could we do this? And Greg said to me, and I will always remember this because it was a key moment, I think I could make it work for us to do this online. And I said, okay, if anybody's going to be able to figure out how to do that, it's definitely you. So I started putting out feelers and, trolling Band Mix and Craigslist and local musician boards and just trying to find people. And we had a ton of interest, which was surprising to me. So we grabbed Jeff right away, and then we went through a couple bass players. We always say that in our bands, bass players are kind of like, it's like Spinal Tap, we can never hang on to, luckily none of them have spontaneously combusted, but yeah, I mean, so Greg and I started the band, but I would say we were not really truly put together until we had everybody here, because lead singers and guitarists get a lot of attention, but, not saying this just as a drummer's wife, but the bass and the drums, if you don't have good bass and drums, you don't have a good band. And Brian is our secret weapon, because a lot of cover bands don't have keys, and they certainly don't have keys players like Brian, who can play really literally anything. And then Frank comes in, and Frank, I don't know, Frank sounds just like Sting to me when he wants to, which is like, who has that? So
It's amazing.
That's cool. I like that. Sting's my
yeah,
favorite.
so it's really a group effort. It's our band, all of us. So
And we have like a fairly democratic and crazy way of picking songs.
Oh God, don't talk about.
We don't have one way of picking them though. We
No,
have multiple
it changes every time, but it's spreadsheets and it's discussions.
The one
listening
through
parties.
line is that it's slow and aggravating, and everyone gets mad at each other, and then
but we all get
we're
something
fine.
that we like. So
Yeah, once
What
we've
is
done
like
it,
your favorite song or artist that you guys like to play, or like what is like your kind of favorite pick? Like,
Well, there have to be Radiohead songs in every set.
yeah.
apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Chris is slowly trying to morph us into a Radiohead tribute band, because Radiohead is his and his wife's favorite band on the planet.
My plan
So
is
yeah,
coming together very nicely.
yes,
Wow,
it's, yeah,
Tom
we've
York
got
fan.
what?
Love 'em.
It's three
But
songs.
unfortunately, the rest of us love them too. So it's sort of one of
Right, it
those.
works out.
Okay, well then.
I'm not getting
Fine.
the Tom York haircut though. I'm not doing it. So, but yeah, that's going to be different. So yeah, Chris, you're Radiohead. Brian, what about you? Do you seem pretty amenable to playing pretty much anything? Do you have like a favorite that we do?
No, I mean, I just want to do stuff that we can do well. So there are some songs out there that are just iconic, and if you don't do them that way, then they're just not going to work, like things. And I think of it from a keyboard perspective. So if it's got a ton of samples, particular sounds that are really critical, or if it requires someone with 5 arms to play, like it's all different keyboard stuff, then I'll be like, let's like find something with more guitars in it. So I definitely like stuff where that it's got cool keyboard stuff and it's playable, but I also like stuff where it doesn't have any keyboard, but then I could throw in some, then we can kind of make it our own in a small way. Like,
Yeah. Jeff, you're the prog rock guy. What's your deal?
I don't know. I think I'm really loving doing some of the Pearl Jam stuff that we're doing. Yeah, I mean, I love anything that's proggy or technical, or that really drives. I think from an early age, there's a guitar tone in my head that I fell in love with. I think that's probably from becoming a Rush fan really early. So anything that really gets at that visceral kind of tone is something that pulls me toward it. Often it doesn't work in a diverse band. So what we often do is find things that do cover a lot of ground, stuff that works for 2 guitars, stuff that has a keyboard element, stuff that's got a really interesting rhythm and really cool bass part. And when we find things that have everything, which is hard to do, but when we do, that's where I really love it. So where everybody really has something individual to contribute, but it still really drives, like when you can find that combination. That's
Well, it's just listening to what you said about how Frank sounds like Sting. You ever thought of maybe doing a Sting song? Like I can tell you two
Oh,
or
yeah.
three of the best Sting
Oh
songs.
well, we
like-
do actually. We
yeah.
we cover Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic by the
Oh,
Police,
yeah.
and we're adding which we won't reveal, but we're adding another Sting song, like a Sting song, not a Police song. No, wait, it's
Yeah,
From
it's-
Synchronicity,
it's-
basically.
it's
Song from
yeah,
Synchronicity,
Synchronicity.
yeah.
album.
still,
Yes.
still Police.
I think,
So
we
yeah,
have a
that- yeah,
police, and we have a Sting one coming up.
That
yeah,
we,
so
yeah.
that's what I was trying to say.
Because
Yeah.
Brian
Right.
picked a Sting song.
Yeah,
No,
he
I took it off my list.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
we,
you
we've
did?
got
Police
we've
song.
got
Oh,
Frank's
okay.
we've got Frank's Police song in there too. But yeah, no,
Gotcha.
once we figured that out, because it's good in the sense that it's not an impression.
Right.
Because if we were doing impression songs, we'd be doing all sorts of random things like Shakira and Cher and like whatever, like the things that we
Oh,
can do.
yeah.
But like it's music, so we're trying to cover. But when Frank, I think when you sent in your audition, you did a Message in a Bottle, I think.
Right.
Mhm.
And Greg and I
Yeah.
looked at each other and we were
I was
like,
like,
holy crap, he sounds just
like Sting.
So yeah, so we're definitely putting more of that in there. And I mean, I love Fleetwood Mac. Anytime I get to sing Stevie
Yeah.
Nicks, I'm happy. Greg is happy with most
I
things.
usually
think.
just ask Chat GPT to give me a list of suggestions.
Oh,
That's
cheater.
great.
Might as well
Yeah,
include
but
I
I
your
already
like
math.
did
Stevie
not.
Nicks as well, so I can totally.
Your math will
understand
be
that.
wrong if you include the chat. It would be like
That's
6
right.
plus 6 plus 2 equals
Right,
1 plus
exactly.
another.
Right. It's in 14-4.
Yeah, but
Is that accurate?
Right.
I lean more
And
towards
by
pop.
the way, and by the way, do
classic
you guys ever play Elvis Presley songs? And I knew like you guys do like rock and all those type of things. So I wanted to ask you guys. You guys
You
play
know,
any like,
Going
Elvis?
way back. Yeah.
It's funny
Yeah,
you
right.
mentioned that, because there was one song that I was going to kind of introduce to the band. It was a song from the Fine Young Cannibals. I think it was.
Not the man that used
I
to
don't know
be.
if it was from
I love that
them.
song.
No, I think English Beat. It was actually a Suspicious Minds, but it was a different version.
Oh, yeah.
Faster.
Oh.
It was a
That's
faster
I'm a big,
version.
I'm a big
And the-
Elvis Presley girl, so like I had
Oh,
to
okay.
ask. because I
Okay.
love
Okay,
Elvis
that
Presley.
seems
So-
like
We'll
an
think-
interview
we'll
in
consider
itself.
that.
How that
If you-
happened. 'cause-
If you go to our website, there's a submit a song button,
Yeah.
so you can submit a song for us to review.
No, I'll
Greg-
definitely do
Greg
that. That's how hard it's gonna
relentlessly
be. I might have to
plugging.
do it right now, actually.
I got one.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are open. I mean, we have 3 criteria when we pick songs. The first one is, can we do it, which seems like a wise
Yeah.
one to include, and
That's
do it
one.
well. The second one is, do we think people are going to want to hear it? And then the third one is, do we like it? And
Yeah.
that
Okay, I got the
opens us
song.
up.
Flowers by Miley Cyrus.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah,
That is a good song.
I know of that song. I've heard snippets of it, but she has an amazing voice. But yeah, I mean, we one of the things that I think that we haven't necessarily tried to do it, but we've always done it, is that we don't like to play a lot of the stuff that we hear other bands covering. And there's not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just because
Do it too much.
yeah, and I mean we have all quite diverse musical tastes. I mean, Jeff was in a cover band for a prog rock band that a lot of people, according to him, hadn't really ever heard of, called Porcupine Tree, for a long time. And he introduced us to some of that music, which I thought was great. But like, so, Jeff being a real prog rock guy, not that that's all that he likes, but he's, as he said so much more eloquently than I am, definitely got that kind of a bent. And, Brian coming from the Broadway background and just, being very keyboard driven. And then Frank likes pretty much everything. I think, so
Yeah, it
does
was mostly
Greg.
they get the punk and the new wave and the Cure and
Right,
and the band
right,
trees and all that
right.
other stuff.
And then, we've got Chris with Radiohead and occasionally other things, and I like most stuff. And, lately we've been also trying, since we've been connecting with a lot of indie musicians, a lot of whom are in the metal community, which has been an interesting turn of events for a cover band. We've been sort of moving a little bit harder on some of the stuff that we're not doing any metal to date, but we're adding in more grunge and more kind of hard rock, heavy rock stuff. So
And I'd
it
love
gives
to
us
just
a lot
point
of
out,
freedom.
also, we're not rhythmically limited either. Like, we do Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, which is very 16th notey, and you would think that might be hard to keep together virtually, but it actually works.
Yeah.
We don't know how, but it does.
It's Greg.
Yeah.
Greg
It's
knows
Greg-
how.
Keyboard.
It's Greg's secret sauce. Yeah.
The drums, right?
It's also fun though picking songs because you find out what other people like that you may not have known. You know, so
It's true.
like, when we get to that period where we're throwing out suggestions, we're all surprising each other constantly with ideas too. You know, and so like you know, Chris threw out Queens of the Stone Age. That was a really great addition.
that was a
Oh,
good song.
wow.
Greg threw out
Yeah.
Muse. That was a great.
Yeah.
You know, so things come out that we don't see coming that are really fun, and they start to create this sort of texture of
And-
what the
and-
band
and-
sounds like.
And I was going to say the other thing is that performing or playing a song is different from listening to it.
Yes.
So a lot of times when it might not be something you'd regularly listen to, but as soon as you start practicing it and learning it, it's a whole different experience, and it's really fun.
I think you
This
appreciate it
is
more
code
too.
for the fact
do.
that Greg has historically hated grunge music. You know, when I met him, that was one of the early things. He's like, oh, everything in the 90s, I hated it. It's grunge. It was just mumbling and yelling. And I love all that stuff, Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam or whatever. And so, you know, I would suggest it and he'd be like, no, I hate that stuff. And I finally said to him, you do realize that? Because I said, well, what don't you like about it? He's like, I don't like the singer's voice. I'm like, you do realize that we're not flying in like Eddie Vedder or whatever, right? Like it's going to be Frank or me or whatever. And once that light bulb kind of went off and I said, let's just try it. And now he says to me, I think actually I'm starting to like some of this stuff because I just imagine you guys singing it or I imagine us playing it. So it's a good point that, you know, and I mean, Jeff is incredibly gracious. Jeff is always suggesting stuff that's really great. And I'm always feeling like I don't have a lot that I could add to it. So like, you know, Zeppelin or, you know, more of like the classic rock, like guy bands and things like that. And he's always very patient with me about that. But, you know, he'll suggest something like a garbage song where I would have never thought to sing it. And then we try it. And I like it so much better when we're doing it than I would like. It's not something I would have necessarily listened to, but I like playing it or singing it. So it's important to be open-minded, which I think we do a pretty good job of overall.
How hard would it be for you to do Bohemian Rhapsody by the Queen? And how would you put that together if you were going to
I wouldn't
attempt
want to touch that. It's so iconic. Like,
now that
everything
you brought it
about
up,
it is
You know, I
iconic.
think musically we could definitely do it.
I think musically,
But the
I think we could,
vocals, I mean,
Right.
maybe it's just the opening section, but I mean, there's a lot of sections with a lot of three.
Well,
vocal harmony in different registers.
That's, I mean, you know, there are some people like Freddie Mercury is just, you know, there was nobody like him before. There's been nobody like him since. There will never be anybody like him. You know, there are a couple people I think that we tend to say, you know, like Ann Wilson is one for me where I'm like, I know my limitations and I'm not going to be singing any hard. I think
it's not hard
Rhapsody,
without her and Nancy. I know. Yeah.
That's it. So, I mean, you know, it's never say never, but often say probably not kind of thing. You know?
I mean, sometimes we'll go in the direction and say, let's just like do our own arrangement of it. And sometimes we're inspired by looking at live versions of songs where the band actually does it quite differently than they did it on the album. And so, you know, we know, maybe they did it with, you know, a much smaller, you know, type of arrangement.
Yeah, what I'm saying. And the other thing too, a lot of time when they get older too, they start bringing it down a little bit, right? And sometimes they do these live performances where they, like you said, Brian, where there's some more acoustics or something, and then we can say, you know, we could do that, you know, we can get away with that. And that's the newer version, right? So,
right.
No, Frank, when you're wearing a Nirvana shirt, so I take it not only you're a Nirvana fan, but are you also a Foo Fighters fan? Since the
I love the Foo Fighters, love the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, so you like Dave Grohl then?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, we just covered Learn to Fly.
We did Learn to Fly, and there's a bunch that we've talked about doing.
I mean, you know, The Pretenders is a great one, and then Hero, something like that. Those are songs that I would be like, you know, but you know, it's all, you know, but the Foo Fighters are a great band, so you know, but I'm glad to be in this band because you know, in a lot of other bands that I was in, it was kind of like, you know, like Christina said, they focus on just like those songs. Like, okay, we're gonna do Free Bird, and then we're gonna go and do some other Tom Petty song or something. And I love Petty and everything in those other songs, but it's just like sometimes I want to expand and just kind of go in a different direction. So when I heard them online, I remember going through Bandmix looking for bands, and I said, "Oh, this band looks pretty interesting," because they had a pretty cool setup with the website and everything. But then I looked at them, I was like, they're not going to take me. Those guys
Oh.
look like they're professionals. So I was like, forget it. And all of a sudden, I'm getting emails from them. I'm like, I'm like, they want them. Actually,
The good thing is
audition
that
me?
I don't think anybody in this band knows exactly how good they are. And that's how we were able to get everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Frank's
don't
always like,
know,
oh,
like, unless you
it's
try
like-
it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I've been in bands since I was 15 years old, and that's 10 years now. But I've been in bands a long time, and I got to say I'm having more fun with this band and this lineup than I think I ever have before. And it's because
absolutely.
everybody brings something so special and so important to the band, and everybody's also just really nice and really cool and really kind, because I think we've all been in bands with people that we didn't particularly like, but the music sounded good or whatever, and it's just to have both of those things, really good music and really good people, has been great. But yeah, Frank, you just he told us that, where he's like, oh, I didn't think you guys were going to hire me, and I was like, who have you been talking to, Frank?
It's just the setup and everything. When I saw everything, the way everything was set up and so professional, I was like, oh,
it's smoke and mirrors. It's
That's
smoke
right.
and mirrors.
Oh, Greg.
Christina,
Brian with the keys, I'm like,
yeah. It says here that you perform Tomorrow from Annie. Have you ever thought maybe doing a rock version of Tomorrow?
Not until right now.
Oh,
That's right.
Good idea.
Well, no, but, I hit it, guys. No, but the deal with that was that I, big Italian family, little kid, liked to sing, and what would happen is we'd have a big party for somebody's birthday or a wedding or whatever. And, they would say, oh, drag her out and then make her sing something. So, I'd shuffle up to the front and take the microphone with my little Mary Jane patent leather shoes. That'll come out tomorrow.
Did they make you wear the wig?
No, thankfully that we did not get to the level of tribute Annie band. But
And Greg, were you Daddy Roebucks?
That would have been creepy.
Right.
He's older than me, but not that much. But yeah. So I mean, we although Jeff has thrown out. Can I say it, Jeff?
Sure.
So
Sure.
Jeff, we've been kicking around the idea of covering Something's Coming. Which I don't know if could be, who knows, that's not, and but doing like is it Todd Rundgren or?
It is, yeah, it's a Todd Rundgren Utopia cover from way back in the 70s.
That's a
where they just
so
got
if we can do that, who knows, maybe Annie will make an appearance at some point, and then Chris will quit the band.
If we end up with a Broadway set, those two are in.
Here we go.
Right.
Hey, Chris, I like that bass play.
Was your favorite movie Annie, or is this like the song?
Oh yeah. So she, you were probably negative 20 years old when it came out, but yeah, Annie was a movie in, what was that? Was that like 79, 80, guys?
Little Orphan Annie,
Right. I mean,
the
musical.
And that's even way
early
after.
70s.
Like the kids version.
Yeah,
I think there's like a newer version of Annie.
They did. They made
Disney had a
made a new
TV
version
movie.
probably 5 years ago or something like that.
Right?
I never watched it because when there's an original of something that I love, I often avoid a reboot of it because it's supposed to be the one that I know, but I heard some good things about that one too. But yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in years, but when I did see it, it's pretty
For a
good.
person in a cover band to have, but
Sorry, Chris.
that's actually not a good attitude for someone in a cover band.
Yeah, I know, it's true. I only like the originals and things. Yeah, it's a spectator, not a performer. I eschew that mentality when we're picking out songs. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely can be hard to watch a reboot of your favorite movie. You're like, is this going to top the first movie, or is it going to be like a level down type of movie?
Exactly. Although it's funny, there are some covers that I think are better than the originals. I mean, I think it's a random one, but there's that song "Crazy" by Gnarls Barkley that came out 10 years ago or something.
Crazy.
And Ray LaMontagne did a cover of it, just an acoustic, and it was so good that I thought that had to have been the original, and then Gnarls Barkley was covering and he wasn't. But I mean, there are I mean, sometimes we end up doing covers of covers, right, guys? Like we'll pick
a particular version of a particular song.
Yeah, and then there are a lot of songs that people don't realize are covers, like Natalie Imbruglia or whatever. It's just stuff that's like, oh, they thought that was their song, and so
all of Three Dog Night.
Right, exactly.
They were a cover band, and most people didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't until we. Well, no, I didn't until we saw them, but
that's right.
That was but yeah, so.
Yeah, there's actual Bee Gees tribute band called Night Fever, and they sound just like them. It's incredible.
I believe it.
Yeah, some of these
we
tribute
could do
bands
that,
are
right,
amazing.
guys?
Yeah,
it's
right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we could do some Bee Gees. We could just.
I love it.
There you go.
I
Chris
love
is
the
thinking
Bee Gees.
whether he should leave or not.
Yeah. Chris is like our Mona
sounds
Lisa. So if Chris is smiling, we know we're okay. And then if Chris does not like something, then we're aware and we just roll slowly on. So he keeps us on track.
He's just like moving on. Move on. Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway.
So how did Yellow come together? Because I know it's a difficult song. It starts off with the bass playing, and then you get Chris Martin walking on the beach. So how did you put that cover together?
Well, I mean, we picked it specifically because we work with this foundation called Yellow for Yanni. Is a friend of mine whose son, it's very sad. He's going to be 3 in July, and a year ago, just before his 2nd birthday, he was diagnosed with an ultra rare, progressive, and ultimately fatal genetic childhood disorder. And so the family decided to create the foundation to try to come up with a cure.
Wow.
And so when we partnered with Yellow for Yanni, and we decided, I asked the guys, hey, I would love to do a fundraiser gig for this family, and if everybody jumped right in and was right on board. And so we were thinking about songs to do specifically for the fundraiser. And one of the songs that they requested was Island in the Sun by Weezer, because that's the song to which Yanni was born. So it's a very special song for their family. And I just thought, oh, Yellow, Yellow for Yanni is the name of the charity, the foundation, and yellow is Yanni's favorite color. And so we decided to try that out, and it came together pretty quickly from what I recall. I mean, it's one of the great things about this band is that everybody comes ready. So, if we say, okay, these are the songs that we're going to be swatting up next.
Rehearsal is not practice.
Brian has already gotten all the sounds that he needs for the songs, and the Frank and Jeff have figured out which pedals they want to use, which guitars they want to use. Chris figures out whether he needs to tune down or anything like that. We all, and Greg is.
And I was going to say, we record every rehearsal, and after every rehearsal, I upload all the songs, each song, into a playlist on YouTube, so the rest of the band members can listen to it and make adjustments as they need it.
Wow.
It's actually an incredible resource.
It's incredible.
Really
you can go back to like really any rehearsal and any song in YouTube, and it's there. It's not public, it's unlisted, but it's for us to review.
But I mean,
it also sounds really good. Usually when you record a rehearsal, usually in a band, someone just records it on their phone, or you have just a recorder you go into, and it usually sounds really unlistenable just because of the way the acoustics of a room are.
Yeah,
these recordings are incredibly clear, and you hear everyone really well, and Greg mixes it really well, so you end up truly hearing everybody's part quite well, like where you almost never get that otherwise.
Yeah, it's really come together as a virtual recording studio, with everybody together, and the DAW adding the effects and everything like that.
And I think that's one of the things I love about that too, because when you do send out the recordings, it kind of lets us get some room for improvement and grow better.
Right, you listen to it and you're like, where can I do, what can I do better next time?
Right, and I use that as a reference. So sometimes if the guitar sounds really distorted, it just sounds great, or something. Then I'll try to make adjustments for the following week so that when we do play live, we sound pretty,
and I mean, I think that because everybody's so good to begin with, and then is quick to learn and cares enough to prepare, often, you know, we will, on the first or second run through of a song, it will sound better than, you know,
Right.
songs I've done with bands where we've been working on it for weeks or months, you know, and so
Yeah.
things tend to come together very quickly. Some stuff, you know, we don't go for low-hanging fruit often, so some things are more like labors of love, like Queens of the Stone Age took a while. But Yellow, to get back to your question, if I remember correctly, was not something that took a very long time to get together. It was more making sure that we left space for the emotional content of it, because it's a beautiful song to begin with, and it had so much meaning to us, specifically around Yanni and, you know, his disease. And the other thing that was really hard is I don't think we have a version of that song where I feel like I sound remotely like I'm singing it well, because what would happen was we played a slideshow of the little boy over the song while we were doing the fundraiser. And Greg had put that together, you know, weeks before, and so it would be playing on the TV across from me
because it
while
had
we
to be
were
live.
rehearsing.
So
And every single time I'm trying to sing, and I'm like, I'm seeing this little boy, and, you know, he's a newborn, and then he's, you know, he's growing up, and then you see him in the hospital, and he's intubated, and he's got all these bandages or whatever. And I'm just like, you're scared.
Yeah.
So I'm crying the whole way through everything. But
he's got a
it
beautiful
really,
smile.
it really resonated with people. You know, I think the song and the message and the family together. But that was one of our. Some of them we only have to run through a couple times, and then they're basically done. And then it's just a matter of tweaking it and getting everything exactly where we want it. You know, that somebody will say, oh, you know, I noticed in the back there's this, you know, high note that maybe, you know, who wants to take that? Are we going to do that on keys or whatever? And so there's a lot. We're all technicians in that way, I think, where we like to emulate all of the parts of the songs that make up the whole, where you might not notice that they're there, but you would notice if they weren't. And so, like, when we decided to do Take On Me by a-ha, we said, okay, Brian, no pressure, but the entirety of the song rests on your ability to get the right sound on the keys. And of course he nailed it. You know, and as soon as you put that in place, so much of the rest of it falls together, but everybody's always doing their part, which is tremendous.
So I take it that when you jam together, is it that song that you're trying to learn to play that you jam, or do you just go around and say, let's just contest my bass guitar and play a little bit Beatles? And then Christina, you might test your voice by singing a little bit of Pretenders, like Brass in Pocket or something. Or do you just, when you guys jam, do you just say, okay, let's jam, and then just try to play the song that you're learning?
Well, we usually have the songs picked out ahead of time.
It's actually, it's
we
kind of
have
rare
like
that we
have an agenda,
jam, which is kind of unusual, but I think that's partly because we're really careful with the time that we have. So when we have a rehearsal, we're pretty purposeful of what we're trying to accomplish. So we don't usually just take a half hour to just sort of solo.
Absolutely.
Although recently we've fallen into some, like at the end of rehearsal, just like because Frank starts playing something and we'll just sort of jam a little bit on it. But,
and we have picked a couple songs that way. You know, things that we just sort of
bubbled up. Yeah.
But I mean, because everybody has jobs and, you know, families and, you know, are busy. And so we really only get, by the time we actually all get on and start playing, you know, something like an hour and a half a week where we can get together and play. And, you know, we like to try to do gigs online, you know, every couple of months. And, you know, we had a very long delay last year because just a bunch of life happened and slowed things down. And then we lost our rhythm guitarist and other vocalist, who was a great guy. And so it took a while to find Frank. We were being very picky because we knew we could. So yeah, we do always have an agenda because it keeps us on track. But yes, you know, sometimes we'll just screw around, and that's fun too.
I think we must have talked to like 100 people before we got Frank.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We auditioned a bunch, and we talked to a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, no, well, those were the people we brought into audition, but I was weeding people out from about June of 2022 until we brought you in October.
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they have to meet.
We're still
They have
auditioning people, but that's a separate.
Yeah, I know.
Only
I
for
still got my-
keyboards, though, Brian. Only for
You
keyboards.
let it out. You let the cat out of the bag.
That's it. We
So-
want to end up. We ultimately
Hold on,
want
I'm
to be like
updating my
Chicago.
bandmates profile.
We want to have 40 people in the band. We're gonna hire a whole horn section. It's
Well, there's 12 right next, in our area.
A whole choir, yeah.
Well, then your
Yeah,
our routers all have to pass the speed test. And
It's
so
true.
all of our
There's a whole
technical
technical
exam-
requirement.
Yeah. So
Well, that's-
So
Yeah,
I think
I wanted to ask you guys, like, would you guys ever end up playing a gig in person, together, all 6 of you, or do you just kind of want to stick virtually doing gigs online, on the internet?
So it's definitely always a question. We right now don't have any plans to do that. At some point, I think we will probably end up finding like an outdoor festival or a show to play where we can, do it safely and comfortably. And now it's interesting too because 5 of us live. Well, Greg and I obviously live together. We thought once we got married, that would be smart. And then Jeff and Brian and Chris are within 20 minutes of us, but Frank is in a whole other state. So, it's, and then but you figure by the time everybody gets home from work and
It
gets
would
set
be like
up
a
or
whole day
whatever.
affair.
It's a thing, but yeah, I mean, absolutely someday. Yes. When is up in the air, but we will. And it'll be an interesting transition from being online to meet space, as they say, being together in person. But yeah, we that is in the works. Just
that's
not
when we're going to
happening.
find that we're out of sync with each other completely.
Right.
They'll just be rushing everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
just
have to
nothing-
wait about
nothing's
ways to
tight,
see
nothing
something,
lined up.
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Like,
Was
did you
that
guys
Kylie?
ever meet, since you guys are 20 minutes away from each other? All Frankie's in a different state, but did you guys ever kind of meet, or is it kind of like, oh, I'd rather kind of have all the band together to meet everyone?
Greg and I met Jeff, I think summer of 21. We all got together and hung out. Remember at that weird little yoga studio?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Yep.
we met there, and we've been to some outdoor festivals together. And Chris and his wife and Greg and I hang out a fair bit, but we've never met Brian in person, and we've never met Frank in person. And Frank and Brian and Jeff have never met.
I've
And
never met.
Jeff, have you met Chris? No, right?
No.
Yeah. So
Not-
most of us don't know each other. Yeah.
In person.
So
Yeah.
It's it is definitely an
Is that unusual
I mean,
for a band?
I don't think so.
No.
I
no.
know.
Yeah, no, just curious
No, it's
why
a
you
question.
asked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was curious
Secret
because I know every
activity.
band is different, so I was wondering, since you guys
we
must be real close.
we definitely are. It's funny, what we originally were concerned, Greg and I, might be a liability, being online only, being a remote band. Because look, I mean, there are people, I will talk to musicians who will say, you're not a real band, you don't play out, you're not gigging for real, and why do you bother? You can't get the reaction from the audience, and it's, how is it even worth it? I would never. And I get that, but
Yeah.
they're wrong, but I get it. But we really
I mean, we see the chat streaming up, and everybody's having a great time.
And I mean, what we were worried would be a liability in that regard has actually ended up being kind of a hook, because a lot of people don't realize that we're not in the same room together or in the same space together until we tell them, which is always a compliment. And I think more than even a compliment, it's a testament to Greg's brilliance and tech wizardry with making this work. Because if you've ever tried to sing happy birthday on a Zoom with people, what a disaster it is. Everybody's out of key. And I mean, there are people who listen to us, musician friends that we talk to every day, who didn't know until recently, after having been listening to us for months, that, wait a minute, you guys are remote? What? You're not in the same, what? And so people find that cool.
We're not the kind of band that does the file sharing thing, because there's some bands that do that,
which is fine.
Which is fine. Like, each person records their piece individually, and then you mush them together in a thing. But no, we do it completely live.
Yeah, it's all live. It's all real time.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different thing.
I think that's why it's fun, right, guys? Because you know, we have rehearsals and we're all joking around and we're talking and we're doing the same thing that you would in any other rehearsal or at any other gig. It's just that you didn't have to bring your stuff anywhere. So
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
There's no breakdown. There's no
Yeah,
load in.
yeah.
It's
right.
just no
I mean,
our
and
living
it's,
room
it's,
or
it's cool because it's a step closer to actually playing out live as a side to like doing like what you said, the file sharing.
yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
and plus we never would have
Exactly.
met you, Frank, right? Because
That's
we
right.
wouldn't have, you know,
yeah, I wouldn't have met
we
you
wouldn't have been
guys
looking
either,
in
so,
Jersey.
yeah. I was shocked when I saw all that. So
Plus, this way, if someone's too loud, you can just turn them down on your own monitor.
That's true. Yeah.
yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, you go in the
Yeah.
mute box. You've been
Right.
punished tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've spent every other band I've been in is just forcing me to turn down all the time, but it doesn't happen here because you guys.
No.
It's the benefit
No,
of
actually,
virtual
we tried to get you to
relationships.
turn it up.
That's
Right?
true.
So Brian, do you think do you feel sort of? I know I was reading about how you ditched a medical career to play piano. So, do you still regret that, or are you glad that you did that?
No, I don't regret it at all. Yeah, that was an interesting detour, but yeah, no regrets at all. You know, I actually don't think that it could have been any different. This is the way everything was meant to sort of turn out.
Well, and
Well, that's
Brian's
pretty
got a
cool.
really cool company too. Brian, what's your
Yeah.
company? You want to plug it?
Which one? I've got a few. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
more headache sometimes than any kind of benefit. But yeah, no, I do
Wow.
IT stuff, consulting, and I have a medical
Nice.
device company, all relatively small but incredibly too time consuming for you know, for my liking. So hopefully one day I can abandon all that and just play piano.
And we could
So
always
what
put
kind of-
together like a medical medley for you. We could do
There
like
you go.
Dr.
Yeah.
Feelgood and
Mhm.
Doctor, give me the news. We could just-
Right.
Brian
Or the
is
theme music to Marcus
Brian
Welty,
is
MD.
Mhm.
Brian is a true polymath. Brian is good at whatever he tries. So
That's
we're
true.
glad that he brought that to us. But yeah, but, you know, life is weird, right? You never know where you're going to end up. So we're glad you did this, Brian, because you wouldn't have time for us otherwise.
Yeah, no, music is important. I mean, I think just even discovering how important music is, you know, if you're a musician and you've been a musician and you then find yourself not doing that, at least for me, you know, I realized at a certain point that's got to be part of my life, you know.
Right.
So this is an
Absolutely.
aspect of that. Yeah.
So Chris, your
Brian,
bass
could
guitar
you
there,
do it as
what
a
is that?
kind
Is
of
that a
a doctor?
Stratocaster?
Just
Sorry,
here.
Two
Kylie.
questions.
What was that?
Two questions.
I
Like,
think,
and Brian,
yeah,
I wanted to ask
Chris.
you, since like you're like a doctor and stuff, before you transition, like, did you ever like watch Grey's Anatomy by any chance?
No, I never did. Maybe a couple episodes here or there, but no.
Oh, stop it. You're a big McDreamy fan, Brian, and we all know it.
Right, I
We'll
was
start doing that at rehearsal.
Patrick Dempsey.
I left.
I'm the biggest Grey's Anatomy fan, so once I heard about a doctor, I was like, oh, okay.
And I'm sure it's incredibly realistic.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. I think like every episode, like the hospital blows up or there's like a terrorist invasion or something.
Yeah.
It's probably exactly like your internship was.
Right.
Like 24.
Yeah, like I'm on like my second rerun of it. Like it's like, I never get bored. I was just watching it before I jumped on this interview. In my last interview, is just never gets
There you
boring.
go. It's very
Really?
salient.
All right. I'll have to check it
Well,
out.
I'm not a Grey's Anatomy fan, but I'm definitely a Jennifer Love Hewitt fan. So I've watched everything she was in. So
Okay,
Oh,
I don't
Party
think
of
she
Five,
was
you
in
go all the way
Grey's
back to that.
Anatomy, but we're taking a tour of pop culture right now. Chris, you had a
Yeah,
question
Gina
for...
Davis.
We
Like,
should
I
do the
know
theme
Chris
from Party of
knows,
Five.
but Gina Davis is my favorite actress, and she is the only reason why I watched Grey's Anatomy that I became hooked. So it's not.
Wow.
it's-
I didn't know
I'm
Gina
hooked.
Davis was in Grey's Anatomy either. I guess I actually have to watch that show.
Yeah,
and she
Chris
knows Hugh
was in a couple
Jackman
of
personally
episodes.
too.
Chris,
Yeah,
did you
she
have a
was,
question for our bass player, Chris? I think you were
Yes, I
starting
did.
to
I
ask.
wanted
and then-
so I take it, Chris, that your bass you have
He's
more
just
than one
asking
bass,
about the
right?
bass back here. Yeah, no, that's a Sire P7 that I
Okay.
bought myself as a birthday present a little while ago. It was actually it turned out to be right at the beginning of the pandemic. So I play left-handed. You might have noticed.
Oh wow,
Which is a real
the second one I've met.
It's a real curse for
You met Paul
bass
McCartney?
players because they don't Right.
No. Yeah, I know Paul McCartney plays it too.
Anyway,
Wow.
so I ordered it online, actually from a company in Germany. There's a company in Germany called Thomann, which is the largest online music retailer in the world, and they have everything. So I ordered it from them right in time for it to get like hung up in customs for a month and a half.
Oh no.
Oh man.
But then that just made it all that much nicer when it finally showed up. And
Well, I know many bass players have more than one. Do you have more than one or just one?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you have more than one?
Do I have more than one bass? I have just this one and the one I had before it, which was a Fender Jazz bass.
Fender,
garden variety made in Mexico, Fender Jazz.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So
if you want a lot of gear, you got to talk to Jeff.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jeff,
right.
I think is our resident gearhead. Jeff has everything, and Frank, you have a decent amount of gear
Frank
too.
is-
But I think
Frank
Jeff
is
might
in
have
the same.
Yeah,
Frank and I
yeah,
both are trying to start a 12-step program, but we don't really
yeah,
want.
yeah, yeah.
Gearheads
We
Anonymous.
see each other there, Jeff.
Hey, it benefits us, so I'm all for it.
There's a lot of overlap, and yeah, we're both into gear that gets programmed, so it takes a lot of. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I think we both share this obsession with setting up everything you want in advance, which takes a huge. Greg does this too with his drum kits. Actually, we all do, right, Brian?
Yeah.
So we're all build out the sounds that we need for given sets and
Yeah.
given songs, which takes a lot of work up ahead.
Yeah.
But when you're playing, you have a great flexibility, but it really does take a lot of sort of odd concentration before you even bring it to the band. So,
Interview.
yeah.
How about you, Kylie? Any other questions?
I think I covered it all actually. Well, maybe one more question, but if you could be one artist or entertainer for a day, who would it be?
Ooh,
Nice one.
that's a good question.
One,
All right.
one artist.
I mean, I would, well, like to who does what we do in the band, or literally anybody.
Anybody. Like any singer that exists, living or dead, anybody.
Can we
For
be
me,
as talented as them?
Oh, you don't need to be as talented as them.
I would hope so. You'd be like the Wish version of Freddie Mercury or whatever. But, for me, it would be a three-way tie between Freddie and Stevie Nicks and Prince, I think.
Oh,
Ooh,
wow.
those are good choices.
Yeah.
Good choices.
So if we could make a Stevie Prince Mercury, I think maybe then that I can't even imagine. Actually, that seems like it would oddly go together. But yeah, that would be me. So what about you guys?
I mean, for me, it
Mark
would be
Franklin.
a great rock pianist like like Roy Bittan from Springsteen's band, or
Oh, yeah.
Greg Fellinganes, who's like a fabulous keyboardist. So they're playing on some of my favorite tracks.
Burton Cummings, maybe.
That name I
Detroit.
don't know. Where
How
did
about you,
Burton Cummings
Jeff?
play?
I think I would go with probably Todd Rundgren. I would imagine just
Oh, wow.
from the kind of compositional
Mhm.
and production side of things, and the fact that live, he's an amazing performer, but he's surrounded by great musicians, and there's always a really interesting dynamic that's going on. So, a day with a great gig in his shoes would be great.
Frankie?
And yes, thank you.
Oh, for me? Ugh.
Sting.
It would definitely. I wouldn't mind hanging out with police. I would think there'd be a fun group of guys. But
You haven't seen VH1's
Behind the
Behind the
music.
Music, have you?
I do. I mean, well, actually,
The police?
Yeah, I mean,
No,
You could hang
I,
out with each one of them individually.
I would hang
but
out
not
with
Right.
together.
Sting, but
right.
Nice.
No, but who would
Yeah.
it be, Frank? If not them.
I mean, if not them, then I don't know. I always had a thing, to hang out with Van Halen.
Okay.
Okay.
But
All
not
of
playing,
Van Halen.
just at some of the after parties.
Right, exactly. And preferably just with David Lee Roth. Because,
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Okay.
Mostly because of the guitar, VH, just to see Eddie and see how he would do,
All right, rhythm section. Chris, Greg, what are your picks?
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm just thinking Lee Sklar. That's a name that probably a lot of people don't know, but
Great bassist, yeah.
he's a fantastic bass player, and he's been on just an astonishing number of records that you've heard.
James Taylor, right? Didn't he do
James
like a
Taylor
ton with him?
records,
Yeah.
Right. All the Linda Ronstadt records, but like millions and millions of things. And he's a great teacher and a fantastic guy. Or maybe Jack Cassidy, who was the bass player in Jefferson Airplane, and then in Hot Tuna. He's got he's just got an incredible approach.
That leaves you, Greg.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got booted again, but I'm back.
Well, I don't know about like being an artist, but I would have loved to hung out with the Beatles. Just because they were just so diverse and thoughtful and just cool. I think those would be my top, and then maybe Sting, just because he's cool too. But
everybody loves Sting.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? What would you choose?
Me?
Yeah.
Whoa, it's
yeah,
always
you
been
too.
Josh.
I mixed it up.
Yeah, because there are two Chris's here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
obviously, sing with Josh Groban. Yeah, because I'm also an opera tenor. But I really like Tony Hadley's voice. He's the lead singer of Spandau Ballet. I really wouldn't mind doing like a duet with him. Tony
Beautiful
Hadley.
voice, yeah.
Beautiful voice. And if I were to duet with a woman, it would probably, I wouldn't pick Britney Spears, but I would pick you ever heard of Lara Fabian? I really wouldn't mind.
Sure,
singing with
yeah,
her.
yeah.
She's my
Another
favorite.
beautiful voice. Yeah,
Yeah, she's
okay.
my favorite.
Oh, I see your style. I see what you like. Yeah, sort of that ethereal kind of strong singer, but with a lot of atmosphere. I got you,
Yeah.
Chris. I see you.
How about you, Kylie? Who would you like to have lunch with? Since you're not a singer and musician, but you do have a woman empowerment company.
Yeah.
So who would you like to have join your woman empowerment? Anybody famous?
Well,
And you can't.
if it was woman empowerment related, it would be Gina Davis for sure, or Mariska Hargitay. I'm a big fan of both. They're both my idols. But if it's if in terms of artists, if I can meet them or be them for one day, I'm in the mix of 3 people right now that I can't choose. It'll definitely be Elvis Presley, one of those Elvis Presley for sure. I'm a big Elvis Presley fan, like I said earlier. Jennifer Lopez for sure, and Keith Urban. Anyone, if I can meet them or be them for a day, those 3 I'll definitely be.
Wow, that is quite the cross section.
Yeah, wow.
But I'm like different. I'm like very different. Like rock and roll, a little bit, pop, country, anything I like.
It's
good. Amazing.
It's good to see. It's good to see the younger generations liking all the really good stuff from years and years and years and years past.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I know, because my aunt, I was never into rock and roll growing up, but my aunt is a huge Elvis Presley fan, and so she got to see him in concert, and I was kind of with being surrounded with her liking Elvis and everything. My love for him kind of grew with being around her, and I kind of started listening to his music because of that. But then once the Elvis movie came out last year, Austin Butler, it just changed dramatically, and I became obsessed. So now me and my aunt talk about nonstop. One time I was at a bookshop in New York City. I'm from Pennsylvania, and one time I went down with one of my friends that lives in the city, and I saw an Elvis Presley biography. I snapped a picture and sent it to my aunt, and immediately bought it. And I was like, I have to buy this book. I didn't care how much money it cost. I was like, I'm buying this book.
It's amazing how family can get us into music. I think we all grew up with music in the home, and I completely can relate to that. That's depending on when you grow up. of course, like now, you think people are growing up as babies listening to like Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys, and I'm not really sure what's going to come of that. But
Yeah, I
growing
really grew
like,
up listening to Beyonce nonstop because my mom is obsessed with Beyonce.
There
So
you go.
that's because I grew up
Wow.
listening nonstop growing up, and we ended up getting my
Yeah.
mom tickets to see Beyonce in Philly for her birthday for July. So I have to go with my mom, which is gonna be amazing. But it's like
Aw.
it's gonna
Well,
be
enjoy
crazy.
that.
Thank
I
you.
think,
Like my mom's
we
seen
have-
Beyonce a million times. That's like I don't know what to do. Like this is like I kind of have to go since she's seen her a million times.
Aw.
Well, this was fun actually. I'm really happy that we were able to get you on the podcast and really enjoyed talking to you. And one more question before we end the stream. Well, okay, before I ask a question, who's the farthest in the States here? Like anybody here from like where's everyone from besides I think one of you is in New York, I think.
We're all
Five
in
of
New
us
York
are in New
except
York.
I'm in
Frank.
New Jersey.
Frank's
New
in New
Jersey.
Jersey. So.
I'm right.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm probably not that far from the George Washington Bridge or the tunnel. I'm
Yeah,
like
20 minutes
from-
away. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So
So
But yeah, we're all within an hour.
We're pretty close.
and-
I'm
Yeah.
I'm probably only like 45 minutes away from you folks.
Yeah, I don't think it would be.
Yeah, and it's gotta be
you're
close
not
enough.
in California or something like that, so
Right.
it's all pretty doable if we actually
Mhm.
get
I
together.
lied. I'm in Honduras. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, it's important for the tech that we're
Right, it's
true.
reasonably
Yeah.
close.
It's true.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm in Toronto, Canada, and Kylie is from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
the office.
Cool.
Yes.
I went to
obviously.
college in Kutztown University in Reading,
Oh
Pennsylvania.
really?
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with Scranton.
I'm
Scranton.
curious what this one more question is, Chris. 'Cause
Yes.
it's a good one.
Yes. What are you working on now?
Oh, well, we usually don't get into song titles and stuff because we have to actually have people curious what we're going to play. But we're working
We have
up
that.
some. We're working up some Police. We're working up some Evanescence. We're working up some
Matchbox 20.
Yes.
Matchbox
Love it.
20.
Pearl Jam.
Some Alice in
I'm a big
Chains.
Evanescence fan. Yeah.
Some one of the 90s female songbirds that we won't get into, but it's definitely a departure for us. One of the pop princesses of the 90s. What else? We've got some Journey.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
Soundgarden.
Soundgarden.
The
Oh,
Racketeers.
wow.
Raccoon.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so
Alice
it's
in
our
Chains.
usual
Toto.
incredibly eclectic mix.
Yeah.
You know, we some artists will bring back for multiple you know, things, and then, you know, we always like to bring back some of the stuff from our catalog that's you know, from the earlier iterations of the band. So we're going to bring back some Counting Crows, some Petty. We're doing Gin Blossoms, and I think there was another one, but I can't remember what it was.
Rolling for soup.
Garbage, right?
Yeah.
Garbage. That's
Garbage.
right. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be our usual mix of genres, and I think our last set list was probably for the fundraiser one of the most unusual mixes of things. I mean, we really had, you know, we had Sarah Bareilles, and we had Queens of the Stone Age, and we had Muse, and we had, you know, Fleetwood Mac, and just it's all over and for me, that's one of my favorite bits of feedback that we tend to get as a band is people will say, oh my gosh, you know, I love that song, but I haven't heard anybody play it. Or like, wow, you guys play really interesting stuff. Or like, you guys, like, you know, because a lot of really good bands are out there playing mostly classic rock or, you know, mostly 80s, but we hit everything. And some of them are kind of esoteric. And I think that's why even when sometimes there's some push and pull around selecting a set list, because we all respect each other and we all love each other and we all have different musical tastes, but there's enough overlap that it's viable, we end up with these really cool, almost mixtape kind of playlists where, you know, you can veer from something that's really heavy into something that's really jazzy or Broadway or whatever, and it works. So we got a lot of cool stuff in the works. We'll probably end up putting on a show, you know, over the summer. I think we'll probably be ready for that. You guys are on notice now. We have to be ready.
Right. It's now in
But
stone.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What I like to notice about everyone's background is that I know that Jeff, I like that you have your bass guitars on there, and then you have are those vinyl record albums in the back there?
They are indeed. Yeah, I'm a
Oh,
big fan of
nice.
vinyl. I kept it all. So,
Awesome.
so it's great that it's coming back, and you can get great turntables pretty reasonably now because I love it. I really love the
Well,
sound
that's
of vinyl.
cool.
So,
Well, you do know that if you guys are going to be playing live one day, I think Chris is going to ask you to borrow one of his guitars.
Probably.
So
it's always good to keep them used.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right.
No instruments need to be played. So
that is excellent. I'm so happy that you guys were able to be here. So, and thank you, Kylie, for joining me today. So we're going to end the stream. Let's all sing a song tomorrow. Just kidding.
The sun will come out. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.